Got a problem. He's the butt of the neighborhood jokes. The coin of the realm, it is glued to the ground. He's a little bit short for his smokes. But Des has a red-handled penknife for emergency cases like this. He's using the blade that was meant to mend shoes, believing the coin to be his. Stuck on the sharp end of laughter, the kids left out from the school. Never quite sure where to hide from the sound, never quite sure what to do. Des has a red-handled penknife for emergency cases like this, using the blade that was meant to mend shoes, believing the day to be his. Isn't life a moment in time? Yours, I'll live mine. A man in a comical helmet delivers the children.
In this screencast, I'm going to use Inkscape to take a photo and kind of split it into a bunch of snapshots. The first thing I need to do is change the document properties a little bit. I will change the background to be fully opaque and slightly gray. We're going to be doing some white frames around these photos, so it's a bit easier to work with a gray background. And also I'm going to turn off the page border, which just removes that border of the sheet, the default sheet. Next, I'm going to import a bitmap to work on. I'm going to choose this one, zoom in a little bit, and so we've got a nice picture here. I will select the picture and I will choose Object, Pattern, Objects to Pattern. Now it is a rectangle infilled with a pattern that matches that bitmap. Okay. Next, I'm going to create my snapshot frames. So what I will do is I like to use square ones. It doesn't matter what size you use, what shape even, for this exercise really, but we'll stick with a square shape, something like this. I'm going to change the opacity down a little bit just because I'm going to create a duplicate of this object. So I'll select the first one, hold Control D, and create a duplicate on top. And with that duplicate selected, I'm going to hold Control Shift and drag one of these corner arrows in to create my frame. Now I will select them both and choose Path Difference, which just takes the bottom one and subtracts the top one from it. So now we have our frame. Once it's selected, I'll hit Control Shift F to bring up the Fill and Stroke dialog box, and I'm going to change that frame color to something that's just an off-white, something like this. Okay, and I'm going to make it fully opaque again. So there's our typical photo frame. Now, what we do here is I'll probably split this into 3 photos. So I'm going to create 2 duplicates of this, so I have 3 frames. Once it's selected, I hit Control D, and I get a duplicate. Select it again, hit Control D, and get another duplicate. And now I can just arrange these in my photo, or over top of my photo. I like to rotate them a little bit to make it a little more fun. And you arrange them the way you want. So say we arrange this one slightly the other way, and this last one will be a lot of overlapping, but we'll say, okay, let's do it this way. Actually, we can take this one and probably move it up this way. So that's how I'm going to split my photos. Be careful that you watch out for problems like this where the photo is not inside the frame. You want to grab this one and bring it up. So you want to make sure the frames are, you can rotate them, tilt them, move them side to side, but you want to make sure that their inside of the frame is completely filled with that pattern. Once I've done that, I'm going to take and create duplicates here. I'm going to select the object behind, the rectangle. I'm going to hold Shift and select one of the frames, and I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it, or I think you do it from here, Edit, Duplicate. I hold Control, the Control key, and drag that duplicate I've just created out to the side. So there's our first frame. Select the background again, hold Shift to select the second frame. I'll hit Control D, create a duplicate, pull it across, and do the same for the third frame. So now I have my 3 frames with the backgrounds. Now what I need to do to these backgrounds is actually change them into paths. I don't want them to be rectangles, I want them to be paths consisting of 4 nodes. So what I'll do is I could select one or all 3 at once. In this case, to demonstrate, I'll select one, and I will hit path, object to path, here, path, object to path, here, select this one, path, object to path. So now when I select the background, you'll see it's now a path, 4-node path. And this is where actually the really easy part is. If you double-click it, now that it's a path, I can take nodes and just drag them without disturbing the pattern behind. Now the corner one always seems to give me problems. For some reason I can't select the node directly. I end up selecting this little X which moves the pattern, not what I want. Okay, so normally I grab that, move it, hit Control Z, and now I can select the node. I'm not sure why it works that way. And all you have to do is make sure that these nodes are, are hidden by the frame. That's all you're trying to do. So I'll try and do the other 2 a little bit quicker to demonstrate how easy it actually is. It would also be a lot easier if I was running this full screen and not minimized or almost minimized for the screencast. So that one looks good. And again, almost done. We can just give them a quick check over. Everything looks good. And now what I do is I take each pair, the background and the frame, and I select them both and hit Control G to group them as one object. That just makes it easier when I'm working with them after. So now we've got our 3 photos. We can now line them up approximately, and you can zoom in and get that alignment the way you want it exactly. And the reason I kept everything horizontal, when I move things, I hold Control and drag things to the side, because then I can keep the alignment. It just makes aligning things easier later on. So there's my real snapshot effect. That's what I'm trying to achieve right there. One other thing you can do that looks nice sometimes is to duplicate all of this stuff, split apart each of the photos that we've created. Now if I select the first one, what I'd like to do is, sorry, I shouldn't have done that, is select this one and ungroup it. Okay, you can use this button here to ungroup it. Actually, you can select all of these and ungroup them. And now what I'd like to do is to create a union between these 2 things. So I would, if you use the menus, you hit Path Union. Don't worry about the bitmap right now. I'll show you what I'm going to do. Path, Union, Path, Union. Now if I select all of those, obviously it looks a little weird. I'm going to bring up the Fill and Stroke dialog box, Control-Shift-F, and I'm going to change, right now the fill is still a pattern, I'm going to change it to black solid. I'm going to blur that. You probably see where I'm going with this. And I'm probably going to just reduce the opacity a little bit here, make it more of a gray. Okay, and now what I can do is take that and arrange it as a shadow underneath. And once it's over top, I can hit page down, make it a shadow. Bring this one over, same thing, and hit page down appropriately to make it a shadow. And here, again, hit page down to make it a shadow. So now we have a more realistic effect. You can adjust things, obviously, if you want your shadow to be more centered under each photo. You can do that as well. Just sometimes a nicer effect. And there we have our snapshot effect. I hope you got some use out of it. You can get, like I said, you can use different frame shapes. Obviously, a rectangle is going to be easier, but you could do fancy things like odd shapes. All you'd have to do is create more nodes around that rectangular image we started with. This image here, right now, if I double-click it, if I turn it into a path, it has only 4 nodes, but you can use tools to create more nodes all around the sides of that. So if you wanted some odd-shaped frame, you could create a bunch of nodes and then drag them all under that frame the same way we did. So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.